All right, dudes. Readily enjoyed that visit with World Golf Hall of Famer Amy Alcott, continuing the All-Star cast in prepping and previewing what, again, sadly, from my perspective, is the final playing of the Chevron Championship. Doesn't really roll off the tongue. Here this week, Mission Hills Country Club in Rancho Mirage. My pal, he's been covering this event since 1986 for the Desert Sun. And it makes me even a little more sad in that we've prepped and previewed in some form or other, I think, not since 1986, but certainly for the last 10 or 11 years. We'll do so now for the last time. It's Larry Bohannan for the Desert Sun. How's it going, Larry?
It's going pretty good. The weather has turned nice after a kind of a wonky bit of a Monday, but it's very nice out here today, and of course looks in fabulous shape. Players are out there practicing now, and there'll be a pro-am tomorrow on Wednesday, and we're ready to go. It's almost like there's nothing different about this golf tournament than any other time they've ever played here, except it's the last time they play here.
That would seem to be a big difference, obviously. I will be out there a few times covering the event for Golf News Net. You, of course, covering it for the Desert Sun, which folks should follow along. If they haven't done so already, Larry's already put out a couple of great articles. You can buy a newspaper, find it online at desertsun.com. I have yet to be on the grounds. What's the vibe? Is it different?
It's a little different. I think people are just kind of trying to figure out what's going to happen this week. I mean, are we going to have a huge crowd because people want to see this for the last time? Or are we going to have a small crowd? People are saying, well, you're leaving anyway. We know the LPGA players, the top players are all here except one, Nelly Corda, who is unfortunately at home resting after a diagnosis of a blood clot in her arm. To tell you what a genius I am, last January I wrote a column saying I would almost guarantee Nelly Corda was going to win this tournament, and she's not even teeing it up. So what do I know? But it's from the golf tournament standpoint, it's pretty much like any tournament that they've played here. Best players in the world, great golf course, and somebody's going to win a major and either enhance their career or make their career. But in terms of the rest of it, I think there's a little confusion as to what we might see.
Yeah, and certainly get to the players, some of the favorites in a moment here. But you're right. Maybe it's until that first ball is struck to really get a sense of any extra gravity, to get that feel of finality. Maybe it will take until Sunday of this week to have that feel. In your conversations, whether in your articles already published or otherwise, what are some of the feedback or some of the emotional responses that you're getting, whether from former players, past champions, people that live in Mission Hills, people that work there? What are you getting?
Mostly it's a feeling of sadness that it's going away. A lot of people who've been around for a long time, and by a long time, maybe I mean 20, 25 years, are kind of surprised that this thing is leaving. How is this happening? Why would they leave here at such a great course and such a great place for the tournament and all? Which is all true, but it doesn't necessarily take into consideration modern economics of golf tournaments and sponsorship. The LPGA is in a situation where they have to have their majors sponsored. It's the old line, it's not the Pizza Hut Masters. The PGA Championship, the USGA, they all, of course, have their sponsors, but they don't put them on the title of the tournament, the championship. Right. The LPGA has three, really, if you include the KPMG Women's PGA Championship, and you have the Avion, and then, of course, you have the Chevron Championship. And sponsors speak very loudly. That sponsorship money is important, and having Chevron, a major multi-billion-dollar international kind of corporation, putting money into women's golf is a very important thing for the LPGA, just as it was 50 years ago for them to have Colgate Palmolive come in and put money into the LPGA and women's golf. So in that regard, it's like, you understand it. I think the best line I heard from somebody yesterday associated with the tournament is, you understand it, but you don't have to like it.
We talked about this some months ago, maybe even going back to October when the announcement came that this would be the final year of the event here in our desert proper. That going through your social media posts and going through your articles and reviewing reader or social media comments and responses. And you and I talked about this. There didn't seem to be a massive deal of lament from either people that, again, commented on those articles, or
Right.
maybe people you had quoted in some of the articles. Are you? I know that you get into the analytics of the articles that you post. I've seen you do it on your computer when I walk behind you covering events. Are you seeing a
Welcome to
lot
modern journalism.
right? For the articles that you've done in recent days or recent weeks about the Chevron Championship, are you sensing or are you seeing the data of a lot of reader interest in this event?
Well, the first thing you have to remember always is that no story about the LPGA will get as many page views, as much interest, as much response as any story about the PGA Tour. It's just not the way it works, unfortunately, for the women. There is less interest in their game. It is far more of a niche sport than the PGA Tour, and the PGA Tour is a niche sport. So,
Right.
But I'm starting to get more emails and text messages and Twitter responses, things like that, saying, well, why is this happening? It's almost as if the announcement from last October didn't really take, or people weren't really that interested 6 months ago. And now, as we're closer to it, now people are kind of waking up and go, what do you mean? What do you mean it's leaving? It can't leave. Why is it leaving? But again, it's not what I would call the torches and pitchfork crowd marching on Chevron headquarters saying, how dare you do this? The outrage is not there. 51 years here in the desert this year. And I think, like I say, there's a sadness about it. I've been told that a majority of the members at Mission Hills are to some level upset that it's leaving. But I've also been told that about 20% of the members at Mission Hills are happy it's leaving. And there's about another 10% of the people at Mission Hills who don't care one way or the other. So,
and as far as that 20%, I mean, I think you'd probably agree with me when I say that, hey, they get their best golf course back during the last part of the peak season.
Well, I think it does speak to the idea that the membership at Mission Hills has changed over the last 25 years. You have fewer full-time residents here. You have more snowbirds. If you're a snowbird, you're not necessarily here more than maybe 5 months, and you don't want to lose that golf course for 2 weeks at the end of your time here. So I think that's part of it. Is that the membership here at Mission Hills Country Club has changed. The idea that Chevron comes in and throws a lot of money at this tournament. Let's be honest. This is, by LPGA standards, a $5 million purse, which is starting this year.
Yeah.
Up from 3.1 million last year. That's a big jump. But as title sponsor, Chevron has a certain power to do things, and one of them is that they're moving it to Houston, where Chevron does a lot of business.
To what extent have you communicated with any of the Chevron brass on site as the week has gotten underway now?
Well, it's only Tuesday morning, and so they really haven't been around very much.
Okay.
A lot of them were coming in yesterday, I think. start to run into some of them today, and certainly for the rest of the week. And I think everything that they have said about this tournament, as we've built up to it, is that they want to continue the legacy as they move forward. I think that's going to be hard because I think there are some traditions that are going to have to be left behind here, simply by the nature of the golf course.
Sure.
But they can still maybe look back on how important Dinah Shore was to the LPGA and how important this tournament when it began was to the LPGA. And I've even talked to your first guest today, Amy Alcott, who is on the advisory board for Chevron as this tournament moves forward. She and Julie Inkster are both on that advisory board. So that's 5 wins at this tournament moving forward to try and help Chevron make the tournament bigger and better as it moves forward.
Not intentionally trying to throw anyone under the proverbial bus with this next question. I reached out to the organizers, IMG, a few times in recent weeks, and I've done a couple preview articles, one for Palm Springs Life, one for the Greater Palm Springs CBB, and I just asked them, is there anything special I can include in these prep and preview articles, save for tickets or some of the favorites, things like that? And I did not hear back from them, which is atypical. It is a contrast from basically every other year I've covered this event. I don't know if they're especially busy or they're being a little cagey or they perhaps have nothing pertinent to tell me. Are they telling you, number one, about ticket sales at all? If ticket sales are maybe up in that, this is again the final playing here?
They sent a press release out a couple of weeks ago saying they were expecting big crowds. They haven't actually said anything about it this week. I think I'll be very interested to see what those crowds are like. Not so much Thursday or Friday because those are always bad days, but certainly Saturday and Sunday. Will people want to come out one last time and see this tournament before it moves? Or are they taking the approach that maybe, well, the tournament's leaving anyway, so why do I want to spend $35 for a ticket?
Right.
So that'll be interesting to see on the weekend. I don't have an answer to that yet, and I haven't gotten a vibe one way or the other. I think if anything, it's probably going to be smaller. I think if anything, people might say, well, let's see, Saturday there's a basketball game. Duke, North Carolina are playing. I'll stay home, watch that. Maybe I'll go out Sunday, maybe not,
So. I've got a couple ideas for like a final blowout that could be interesting. I think they're all perhaps too dangerous, one of which is to have every past champion make the leap together. Anyone that's present or on site. Now, some of those ladies are a little bit older now, so that could be dangerous to have. Like
you would have women. Kathy Whitworth jump into that lake.
Yeah, with Patty Tavakit and all the champions together do one final leap in unison. Again, could present danger. And then since Chevron is the sponsor, and obviously we're talking gas and oil, maybe to light something on fire and like this final blaze of glory. Maybe I'm stealing that from Burning Man. I'm just kind of thinking off the top of my head here, Larry.
I think Chevron's trying to avoid fires as much as they can, and I don't think we're going to see an oil tanker on Poppy's Pond potentially running into something. That's probably not going to work. But I do think that as we get to Sunday, we're going to see a lot of nods to the history. Whether we might get a couple of more champions into that lake than before. I promise you one thing, it won't be me. I've never won the tournament. I can't go into the lake. But I think Sunday will be a really fascinating and a very emotional day for a lot of people.
Friends are tuning into episode 51 of the Spicer Speaking podcast, prepping and previewing the 51st and final desert playing, first major of the season, the Chevron Championship, taking place this week, again, for the final time at Mission Hills Country Club Dinah Shore Tournament course in Rancho Mirage, California. right in our backyard doing it with Larry Bohannan. Larry the Legend. He's covered this event since 1986. You use the pronoun, I think it's pronoun, me. And let's talk selfishly here just for a moment. I mean, it kind of occurred to me that as I was doing a few of these articles in recent weeks, that taking bread off my plate, man. Then no one's going to be asking me to do a preview for the Chevron Championship in Houston, Texas. I can tell you that.
No.
I mean,
No.
for you, you're not getting paid by the word or by the job like I am, my freelance lifestyle, but it is definitely taking something off your plate. Does that bother you?
Yeah, a little bit, but I think it does so much bother me in terms of do I have a job or not? I think I have a job for a while, but it does bother me. And, this is the 36th year that I've covered this tournament. And I think that when you don't have this tournament to cover next year, it will feel very strange. There will be a big hole in the fabric of the desert, not just necessarily for me, but for a lot of people, I think. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how people look at the absence of the tournament a year from now. Maybe they're not thinking about that. But, I've got a column written for a year from now, so I hope I still have the job saying, now what do you think, guys? Now that it's not here, now that we're waiting for it to be played later in the year in Houston, because it will be a different time of year down there as well, and different television as well. It'll be on NBC rather than just on Golf Channel. I think that's when it will hit a lot of people who aren't necessarily being too maudlin about it right now.
Right.
Next year we'll go, hey, wait a minute, shouldn't we be doing something right now? They're like the 5 stages of grief. Here, I think there's 3. There was the one from October, the one now, and the one a year from now.
Well, of less grief or grievance, and this is something that bothers me additionally, and I think you'd agree with me on this. I mean, what we are cumulatively going to be missing in the desert is the highest level of play that the LPGA Tour has ever had. So we're not just losing an event, we're losing a product that is getting better and better basically every year. Not every sport or pool of athletes in the sport can that be said about, but like what we saw last year with Patty T. I mean, she had attacked and approached the golf course in a way that I don't think any other woman ever had, basically averaging well over 300 yards off the tee. Talking about the players this year, and you just put out an article in recent days talking about 10 women that could go out and win this thing. That list starts deservedly with world number 1 Jin Young Ko. As you wrote, 34 consecutive rounds under par, just had a streak of 16 consecutive rounds in the 60s. Snapped at Arviara this past weekend, which she played like kind of average and still finished, I think, 2 shots out of the playoff. Past champion of this event. There is no way that come Sunday afternoon she should not be the one making the lead.
No, I think any conversation about the LPGA right now has to start with Jin Young Ko. She's just playing golf. That's, Scotty Scheffler's playing pretty good golf on the PGA Tour right now with 3 wins and 5. But Jin Young Ko's been doing this for 9 months now, winning tournaments, threatening to win tournaments. She is the winner here in 2019. The last time we had fans, we do have fans this year. And you would think that she has to be part of it. But I agree with your point, too, that the depth of quality on the LPGA has never been what it is now. When I first started covering this tournament over the next 6 years, the winners were Betsy King and Julie Inkster and Amy Alcott, and Pat Bradley was the defending champion the first year I played it. I covered it. And those were all Hall of Fame players. But the depth of the fields were not nearly what they are now. They weren't as international as they are So you don't see from Thailand, Patty Tavatanaka. You don't see from New Zealand, Lydia Ko, who is certainly somebody that uh, has to be considered as a potential winner. In fact, we only have one American in the top 10 right now, and she's not playing. That's Nelly Korda, top American. Well, no, that's not true. I forget about Danielle Kang,
Right.
who is certainly a player who hits the ball off the tee well enough to win this golf tournament pretty easily if she gets it all together. I think they all want to be the last winner here. If you're looking for the teary-eyed storyline, you have to go with Lexi Thompson,
Right.
you know,
Right.
who's still trying to figure out why she didn't win it a second time, and this could be her time on a course she's always played well. So, but the depth of talent on this tour right now has never been this great.
Yeah, missing Nelly Korda, and I'm sure no one is missing the opportunity more than she is. Certainly
Oh
wish
yeah,
her
she's
well. Young woman,
second.
super talented, dealing with the blood clot, which is freaky. But yeah, knocked on the door the last two times, had opportunities to win it, but minus her presence in this field. When you mentioned Lydia Ko, I don't see anybody else right now that should even reasonably challenge those two players. Obviously, over the course of 4 days, there's so many good players. You named a few others. There's a few others that will undoubtedly have some good rounds and will be in that top five. But aside from Jin Young Ko and Lydia Ko, I don't really see anybody else right now that should win this tournament.
One of the things about this golf course is it suits certain games very well. It's a longer course for the LPGA, so you have to hit the ball off the tee pretty well, but you also have to kind of hit it straight because the rough is going to be at least 3 inches. And the greens are going to be in fantastic shape. So anytime we talk about the greens, you have to talk about MD Park, who is, maybe the best putter in the world over the last 10 years. So she's, I think, somebody who could still do it too. She should have won it a second time.
True.
Somehow she lost an 8-hole playoff to Pernilla Lindbergh. But I think you're going to get everybody's best this week. Everybody will want to be the last winner at Mission Hills, the last player, the last winner to jump into Poppy's Pond.
Well, this will not be the last time that you and I talk, although again, sadly, it will be the last time you and I preview this event together. I look forward to seeing you, Larry, on the grounds over the course of the week at Mission Hills Country Club. Look forward to reading all your work in the Desert Sun newspaper, which, friends, again, check it out this week at desertsun.com. Here's to an interesting week ahead, my friend. I look forward to seeing you on the grounds. Appreciate your time, Larry Bohannan.
See you out here, man.